I've got a Catholic Stewardship Appeal video for you today, so I'm going to try to be brief. Last week, we heard an early exorcism story, and today, we are still in the first chapter of Mark. And what we got today was basically a greater glimpse of Jesus' earthly ministry. So he comes to town, and he heals one person who happened to be Simon Peter's mother-in-law. And then the whole town comes up to that house, hoping that Jesus' healing will come upon them or their loved ones. Jesus does exactly that for a while, and then he says, okay, enough's enough, time to move on to the next village because I can't spend too long in one place. So here's what I've got for you to ponder today. What if we, modern people, what if we are very similar to those Galilean villagers 2,000 years ago? Because like them, most of us are silently suffering in some way. For some of us, we have a physical ailment that is preventing us from living life to the fullest. Others of us are physically fit, but we're suffering from something like depression and an anxiety. You know, that can just rot away your enjoyment of life. Still others of us are sound in mind and body, but we are just overwhelmed by doubts about why we're here and whether or not any of this means anything. So all of us, in one way or another, all of us are experiencing spiritual warfare, whether or not there's a physical component to it or not. So right about now, I'm willing to bet that you're thinking of your big current struggle that's just hanging over your head these days. Hang on to that. We're going to come back to that in just 1 minute. So imagine that one day a man comes to town, and you don't care. People come to town all the time. It's no big deal. But the next day, you hear that this guy did something very good for Mrs. Jones down the street. And you think, oh, good for her. That's kind of interesting, I guess. But then the next day, you learn that this same guy has been doing other good things for people all over town. And all of these people are walking away from this guy completely healed or restored in just the way they needed. At that point, would you not be exactly like those villagers who just rushed to that house where Jesus was staying just for the chance that they might be healed of the thing hanging over their heads? In their place, wouldn't you at least give it a shot if it meant being healed or restored of the very thing causing you the most pain or frustration in life right now? I think we would. And what I'm getting at is this. See, I believe that the vast majority of people in this world are absolutely craving Jesus. Even the people who have no clue who Jesus is, or the people who have heard about Jesus but just don't think he's that big of a deal. Okay, fine, those people won't say, I am craving Jesus, but they are craving things that only Jesus can provide. And the only reason that we are not collectively just blitzing to the house where Jesus is staying is because we spend so much of our lives thinking that Christ is far away, that he's not listening, and that coming to church is not a particularly useful way to spend your time. And so when we think like that, we stay at home, we mind our own business, we ignore the evils of the world as best as we can, and we just try to contend ourselves with the scraps of hope we can collect without involving God. But I'm here to tell you, in spite of our stubbornness, every so often, Jesus comes to town. And after barely surviving for God knows how long on these crumbs of hope, you hear Jesus doing something for someone else, and hope, real hope, floods your entire body. And at that point, you can't help yourself, and you will dash across the neighbors' lawns just to get at that house to see Jesus. Yes, we become very different people when we believe that Jesus is close and that he actually is listening to us. And we become different people almost always for the better, as long as we don't let our pride warp our faith into something ugly and twisted. I'll admit that's always a risk. That's always a chance. We got to watch out for that, always. But for the most part, our faith makes us better people. So we will end here in that Christ is listening to you. The idea that Christ is far away and he doesn't really care, that is a lie that the world is trying to sell you. I'll remind you, I have been to St. Thomas Parish in Connecticut where they had that Eucharistic miracle a while back. And when I was there, someone who was there at the time of the miracle, she looked me in the eye and said, "This is real, this happened, we were blessed in this way." A bunch of us have made at least one pilgrimage to the Shrine of Our Lady of Good Help, aka our Shrine of Our Lady of Champion, and we have had so many blessings right here in the Horicon Neosho area. Christ has not given up on us. God is waiting for you every single time you come to church. Every single time. So if I can offer you any advice, don't be too much like the villagers in the gospel, in that don't wait to seek out Christ until after the frenzy begins. That's when the line is at its longest. Seek Christ now, today, on the altar, among your friends and family, around your prayer beads wrapped around your fingertips, and let Christ restore you in a way no one else can.